60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
Listen to this quote: from Ilorin to Lagos to Abuja to London and to Panama, the stories are similar, sordidly similar and similarly sordid. Saraki is not pronounced guilty of any of the charges, but a shadow hangs over his integrity by these criminal allegations. End of quote. Hello and welcome. This is 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajitumobi. Thank you for joining me on the program today. And so if you've been following political activities in Nigeria, you will know that Nigeria's Senate President Bukola Saraki, since he emerged president on June 9th, 2015, is facing a 13-count charge violating provisions of the Code of Conduct Act through false and improper asset declaration. That's false and improper asset declaration. And that's where my host today comes in. He's a former president of Commonwealth Journalists Association, a former editor-in-chief of Newswatch magazine. He succeeded the late Dele Giwa in 1986. He's a former chief executive officer of Newswatch Communications, and he's won several awards, including International Editor of the Year in 1987, and currently is a contributor to Nigeria's Guardian newspapers. So, join me after the break as I count down 60 minutes with EKPU, former Editor-in-Chief of Newswatch magazine. Welcome back. Welcome, Mr. EKPU. Thank you very much for coming back on 60 Minutes with me.
Thank you very much.
In my introduction, I was quoting you. You said from Ilorin to Lagos to Abuja to London and to Panama, the stories are similar, sordidly similar, and similarly sordid. Saraki is not pronounced guilty, but a shadow hangs over his integrity by these criminal allegations. He has offered explanations. Is it that you do not value the clarifications that he has given?
By our legal system, he is not guilty because he's not been convicted by any court of competent jurisdiction.
Yes.
But when you do have criminal allegations against a person, the normal procedure in the public service of Nigeria is that you go on suspension. Once you've been put in the dock and tried, and the charges are read to you,
yes,
whether you say I'm guilty or not guilty, they put you on what the civil service calls interdiction. So I was using that to deal with the Saraki case. There is nobody who is the boss of the Senate. Otherwise, we would not be talking about this issue.
Yes.
The Senate seems to be on its own. The president of Nigeria has a boss. The Senate can impeach him and he's gone. The head of the judiciary has a boss. The president can remove the chief justice. He appoints, he removes the chief justice of Nigeria. But the Senate president is elected by the members, and they alone can remove him. They've removed several of them before.
Yes.
But if there is no agreement among them as to why he should be removed, then he's not removed and he stays there. That's why I say that the Senate seems to be on its own. It doesn't have a boss. You can say that the constituents can recall
Yes.
a Senate president or a senator. But that's a long and difficult process.
Yes.
So that's the problem with the Saraki matter.
You've talked about public service and suspension of people who are in the public service. Do those public service rules apply to the Senate as well? I mean, perhaps if it was a civil servant in a ministry, it would be easy to say suspend. Will those rules also apply to the Senate?
Well, we should ask ourselves the question, are senators public servants? The answer is yes. Are they paid from the public purse? The answer is yes.
Yes.
If they are paid from the public purse, who is that boss? Are they the boss of the people who pay them, or they are his boss? Somebody who is in the Senate and is paid by the public is a public servant. That's my own definition. I may be wrong,
Yes.
but that's the way I define it. You are either a public servant or a private servant. If you work for a private company, you are a private company servant. If you work for a public company, a public organization like the government, you are a public servant. There is no third way.
Does it matter that some public servants are elected and some are appointed? Could that be a reason why we're not seeing that suspension come?
Yeah, I don't see why that should be the case. If we had a country where people have integrity, he would have opted to resign a long time ago.
Wouldn't that opting to resign be an admission of guilt?
Not necessarily. You can say, I want to go spend time and defend my good reputation. I have enough time to defend my good reputation. The president
Yes.
is elected, but he can be impeached and he will removed from office. Why should that of the Senate president be different?
Let's look at the charges now. Let viewers know the charges that he's facing. It's a 13-count charge of violating the Code of Conduct Act through false and improper assets declaration. What is your understanding of those charges?
When you get into office, certain offices,
Yes.
you declare your assets, what you have. And when you leave that office, you also declare what you have. So the Code of Conduct Bureau and its lawyers and its other staff will analyze what you have as opposed to what you had when you got into office.
Right.
That way, they will find out whether you accumulated more wealth, more legitimate wealth than you ought to have had. The close of business,
Yes.
the last day you served. And some of them do not declare all that they had. And I think this applies in this case according to the evidence provided.
Yes.
There are some properties that have not been named at the close of business,
Yes.
and which means that these properties may have been acquired illegally or beyond his legitimate income during that period. We are all speculating now, but of course all of those details
Have been ironed out
Yes,
in the
yes.
tribunal. You obviously know about the case of the former Lagos State Governor, Senator Bola Tinubu, at the same tribunal, and the challenge that has been raised by the Senate President, citing Section 3, subsection D of the Code of Conduct Act, where he could have made a written admission of the breach, if any, and no reference to the tribunal would have been necessary. Because that privilege was given to Senator Tinubu or anyone else,
Yes.
does the tribunal not have to give that privilege to Senator Saraki?
But you see, the tribunal has admitted that it made a mistake. It was an error. I don't know whether it was an error or it was politics. But the public knows what happened. The account numbers were listed and printed and published, and he never disputed them. So in the eyes of the public, he did what he should not have done while he was in service.
Yes.
It didn't matter that the Code of Conduct Tribunal dismissed the case or suspended it, but it now has admitted
Yes.
that it made an error.
And he's trying to correct.
It's apparently trying to correct it now.
You seem to agree, reading your article in the Guardian newspaper, that the genesis of his problem, I'm quoting you now, is defying the gods of party supremacy to wear the crown of a Senate president. How do I process that? Are you saying that if he didn't defy the party's supremacy, these charges are not valid?
He is the one saying this. That's the position he's held. If he had not sought to be Senate President, if he had not become Senate President against the wishes of some people in his party, all of these problems would not have been brought to his head. Because the unspoken thing there is that, there are many governors who are in a similar position. They haven't tried them. They haven't fought them the way they fought him. He hasn't said that, but that's the meaning of that. But for me,
Is that not a valid statement to make, Mr. EKPU, that we're many alumni of the class of 2011?
Yes.
Why am I being singled out? You don't think that is witch hunting?
Well, I don't think so. This government is different. The government came on the promise that it will fight corruption.
Yes.
And it is trying to live up to its promise. If it doesn't live up to that promise, people are going to hold the government accountable. People have said that the president is not fighting corruption globally.
Yes.
He's just picking and choosing members of the opposing party. That might well be true. I always say, let him start with whoever he can start with. If he exhausts the members of the opposition party, we will tell him that there are some other people
in your
own party that you haven't touched. It's a lifelong battle for Nigerians. It's a lifelong battle. And for me, I have seen a lot in this system. These people have destroyed Nigeria through the excessive looting of the treasury, and that is why Nigerians must support the president on this anti-corruption crusade. And I think he must not waver. He should not waver. No accusation, no intimidation should let him lift his foot from the throttle. We need to do it. Besides, Nigerians seem to forget that this has become a global phenomenon, a global fight. Halliburton, many accused persons in Halliburton have been tried and sent to jail. Some prominent Nigerians have been accused. They started a trial and they stopped. The Americans, I understand, are pressing on Nigeria to carry the Halliburton case to a logical conclusion. A lot of these corruption cases have international dimensions.
Yes.
Even Sweden, which used to be headquarters of coded accounts, the citizens and the international community are putting pressure on them. These coded accounts have been broken. This Panama used to be a heaven for keeping looted funds, heaven for tax evasion. Now it is an open place. So there is no hiding place. Nigerians have to hook up to the fact that globalization has made these things simpler. We can't live on our own and decide that we want to run the world according to our own
rules.
Yes. Now there is a Nigerian governor who was tried in Kaduna. They hired some people who carried placards and said, "Leave our man, he's free. He didn't do anything wrong. It's our man." There is the same governor who was given 100 charges. The judge ticked one after the other, 100 charges, not guilty on any. And the man went to Dubai and got arrested in Dubai. He thought Dubai was a heaven that he could hide, and the man is in jail in the UK now. That tells you that it is no longer easy for any Nigerian who thinks he can be corrupt and he can be jailed by Nigerians. If he goes out of Nigeria, he may be picked up. We just have to get accustomed to the fact that the world has been globalized. The world is one.
Yes.
If you remember, Liberian warlord who came to hide in Nigeria, and the Nigerian government said, "Well, sorry, I think you have to go." And they arranged, and as he stepped out, he was arrested.
Yes.
He's in jail in Geneva. That should tell you that the world today is different from what it was yesterday. If Nigerians still think, we have to do it our own way, I am saying to them, you can do it your own way today. Whether it is corruption or money laundering, there is a global movement against these things.
All right, let me read to you, as you rightly pointed out, what the Senate President has said about this trial. I reiterate my belief that the only reason why I'm going through this trial is because I'm Senate President. If I were to be just a senator, I doubt if anybody will be interested in the asset declaration form filled over 12 years ago. End of quote.
Maybe he's correct, but I am saying that the times have changed. Nigerians are suffering a great deal, and they see their leaders or former leaders flaunting the wealth recklessly.
Yes.
If you want to find out whether all the governors who have left done 8 years are corrupt or not, you can find out. I can swear on my last bottom naira and say that there is none of them that left office after 8 years that is not at least 10 times richer than he got there. You can see the houses, mansions all over the place. What do they do with the money? They buy mansions, they build mansions, they put the rest of the money in the banks. Maybe not Nigerian banks, but foreign banks. But once you put money in a bank, it is known to more than you and one bank person.
Yes.
And with globalization, they tell Nigerians, your money is here, your money is there. Part of the money is now being repatriated from banks abroad.
Yes.
There's a lot of international cooperation on these matters. And as the pressure comes, as Nigerians feel impoverished, they are going to keep rising. You can see the labor union people found their voice now. They're saying we want 56,000 naira, which is ridiculous. But they're also saying the governors are still flying around in higher private jets in a country with so much poverty. So the pressure will keep coming because of the pressure that Nigerians are feeling for these corrupt people to be brought out and punished. So nobody should say, well, if I hadn't occupied this position, nobody would have sought for me. The mass media, which is sleeping now, will also wake up. The NUC, the labor union, the NLC, they will wake up. This is the time to wake up because Nigeria has made so much money, and I don't think Nigerians are going to accept a situation like this. And they see these people flaunting their wealth recklessly. Nigerians don't even know how to be sober. They make the money. They know they can't. You can't put a big house in your pocket and go away. It is there, and people see. People know who owns what.
Yes.
So they don't care. They do it because they know that the system is corrupt. My theory about corruption is that if you steal enough in Nigeria, you can get away with it. You hire the best lawyers that money can buy.
Yes.
You pay the best lawyers on the other side that money can buy. You pay them.
The prosecutors now.
They punch holes in the case, and the government will never win. And you pay the judges, if you can, all the way, and then you hire people and give them placards to come to the court. All kinds of pressure on the system.
Yes.
But I am saying that the end of that is near because people are not going to continue to accept this. Now the reality is dawning on us that we should have saved money for the rainy day, and we didn't. And you are telling people, some of the governors were saying, oh, the government should reduce the minimum wage. Miserable 18,000.
Yes.
He said the government should reduce. And the NLC people responded, you resign your post first, because when you were campaigning, you didn't tell us that you will reduce the minimum wage. So the battle lines have been drawn. I don't think that it is going to be business as usual.
Join us again after the break. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, it's 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajetumobi. On my hot seat today, Ray EKPU, former editor-in-chief of Newswatch magazine and currently contributor to Nigeria's Guardian newspaper. The interesting thing is that even for the supporters of the Senate President, Bukola Saraki, I haven't seen anyone really address the allegations. They've always come up with witch hunting, political persecution, and I'm thinking, isn't this a strict liability offense? Did you under-declare or not? Did you not declare or not? I would have thought that those were the two simple questions that needed to be answered.
The supporters are sentimental. Some of them are hirelings and they have to work for their money. Some of them genuinely believe that their man, they must support their man.
Yes.
Right or wrong, my man.
Yes.
That's the process. And they're not ready to listen to logical arguments, to face the facts of the case. They are just talking about witch hunting and so on, and dropping people's names. But the truth of the matter, when you remove all of this, when you remove the politics of it and the propaganda of it, come down to brass tacks. Are the facts as listed in courts right or wrong? That is the question. What the supporters are trying to do is to draw wool across people's eyes, and I don't think that will work. Yes, he may be a scapegoat because of his politics, but the truth of the matter is that the public is likely to be looking more at the facts of the case. Did he under-declare? The prosecutor actually names buildings in Lagos, in Abuja, and this and that with numbers and streets and so on.
Yes.
So it's not guesswork. He has to say whether those things, those buildings belong to him or not. What the supporters are saying is that it's a witch hunt. My last response is deal with the facts. Don't try to mislead the public.
Well, the Senate President says that he's not alone in this trial. On trial with him, he says, is the entire judicial system, our entire anti-corruption institutions, our avowed commitment to honestly fighting corruption, our party's promise to depart from the ways of the past which Nigerians voted for, and our media's ethical commitment to report fairly and objectively. Do you agree with him?
Yes, he has said that he's not alone in this battle. The judiciary. We want to see whether the judiciary, whether the prosecutors are deceiving us, whether the facts they are putting before the courts and the court of public opinion are correct. If they are correct, is the judiciary going to say, well, we look the other way, it belongs to the government party, so it's not guilty. So in that sense, the judiciary is also on trial, because this is a government that says it wants to fight corruption. And it's been bringing out kinds of worms, and the worms are crawling all over the place.
Yes.
And Nigerians are saying, oh my God, these worms are so big. Is that why we're impoverished and so on? So anybody who wants to preach a sermon to the contrary, oh, we should forget, and this is not the way we've been doing things. But Buhari is a man of steel, and I support his attempt to find the thieves and bring them to justice. We can't go on like this. Are we all going to go there and steal money? This place will crash. So the corruption battle, the time is ripe, and I will ask the media to join in the battle. This country shouldn't have been like this. We used to pay the salaries of West Indians in the West Indies.
Yes.
During Gowon's time, we had so much money, and the government said, we have money, we don't know what to do with it. Now we don't have money, we know what to do with it, but we don't have the money.
Yes.
And therefore, the situation has changed. If government was not going to fight corruption before now, the time has come. People are going to keep putting pressure on various governments. And Nigerians are eating from the dustbin, from the bin that Omar Udiko said many years ago during Shagari's time, that Nigerians were not eating from the dustbin. Nigerians are eating from the dustbin now.
Now, I want to take you through the Senate President's defense, in his response to Dele Momodu, who contributes to this day newspaper who had written to him. This is his first known defense against the allegations. He explained the rationale behind the mechanics of a contest for the Senate president and what you call defying the gods of party supremacy. Senator Saraki says that the clerk of the Senate had received a proclamation from President Buhari authorizing the inauguration of the Senate. All senators know what that means. Why then did other APC senators decide to attend the meeting when they ought to have been in the Senate chamber? This is one of the defenses he's put to how he emerged as Senate president. Isn't that a valuable defense?
What makes it a valuable defense?
That there was a meeting in the Senate and other senators decided to prioritize a meeting outside the Senate as opposed to the one they should have been attending when the clerk had already given notice of the inauguration.
That is politics. That is the politics of it. But
He says we should blame whoever summoned the meeting outside the Senate on the day that the Senate should have been inaugurated.
Yeah, well, it is the chairman of the party who summoned the meeting and invited the president to attend. Yes, there was a scheduling clash and decided to do what they did. But this is all in the past. This is all the politics of it. He himself said in an interview that Saraki that he got to the National Assembly in a small car at 4 a.m. I think it was 4 a.m.
Yes.
He got there and he sat in the car and he was sweating. There was no AC and he sat there until it was time they came and brought you out, took you there to put the crown on your head.
Yes.
What sort of dodgy activity is that? You don't worry about that. Where in the world do they do it? Except perhaps in Nigeria, when they impeach people at 4 a.m.,
Yes.
5 a.m., they impeach people. 3-4 people will sit down and they say they impeach somebody. These things should go into the Guinness Book of Records because I don't know where they do it in other places. It's not a shame to tell us that. If you had a straight matter, straight fight, do we have to be dancing naked in the marketplace?
Yeah.
What sort of democracy is that? Can't you say, I'm eligible, I want to go and contest for the post, I have my supporters and so on.
Yeah.
You go and hide somewhere at 4 a.m. in some toilet in the National Assembly waiting for people to come. It's very shameful.
What about the matter of the signals he says he received from the party regarding filling up the principal offices? Don't forget that even after he emerged as Senate president, there was still a tango between himself and the party as to who would fill the principal offices of the Senate. He says that the first signal was about zoning. The party specified the zones to which leadership positions should go. The second signal came with actual names to fill these positions, and that he is not an executive Senate president. He does not impose his will or his party's will on senators. Senators will vote for whom they deem fit to fill those positions. This, he says, is another reason why he is being persecuted.
You will never find in the history of Nigeria where an opposition party becomes Senate president in Nigeria. Never. He worked it out with the opposition and got the opposition to support him because he knew that he did not have the overwhelming support of his party people. That is the problem. And the APC, I'm not speaking for them because I don't know them, feel that they've been humiliated. That is, it's their party. They have a majority of 10, 59 versus 49. Why should this deputy Senate president
be
come
from another party?
That is what bothers them. One of the things that bothers them. He's not explaining that. How did that happen? They worked out the arrangement with the PDP people and he gave them that share. And now it's affecting the Senate because he has a few times that Saraki goes to court, the man goes with him. The Senate cannot hold, doesn't hold.
Yes.
The Deputy Senate President goes with him to the court.
He says he hasn't forced anybody to accompany him. They accompany him to tribunal on their own free will.
Because if you are not seen to be supporting the Senate President while he's in office, you can lose a lot of things. He's the boss. He's the boss of the National Assembly. He's the boss of the Senate. So that is why some of them are accompanying him. I think the other reason is, let us support him, because if they deal with him, the next turn it will be ours. They will deal with us.
Yes. Now, this is the third reason. I have also been accused of helping to frustrate some people's opportunity to emerge as President Buhari's running mate. The problem with that statement, Mr. Ekpu, is that many people wish, myself included, that he clarified who some people are or were, and his explanation is that it would not have been politically smart for the APC to field a Muslim ticket. His opposition to that Muslim ticket, preventing someone from emerging as vice president to Buhari, is also a reason for his persecution.
I am sure that he's not the only one who opposed the Muslim ticket. I was opposed to it, and I talked to some APC people that I know. I said, do you remember what happened during Buhari's time with the Diabong?
Yes.
And that was a military government. People were opposed to it. It was a military government.
Even then?
Even then, they opposed it. So to float this idea now, you are saying, okay, it happened during Chief Nko Abiola's time.
Yes.
And Babagana Kingibe.
Yes.
Abiola and Kingibe were not known to be fanatical about their religion. I'm sorry to say,
yes,
none of them was a fanatical Muslim. But people have said that Buhari is a fanatical Muslim, and you want to bring another Muslim and add to it. That is a dent on his reputation. And if you remember, the campaigns were fought on the basis that the man is a Boko Haram activist, and he had actually said before then that Boko Haram people should be given amnesty the way the Niger Delta people, yes, were given amnesty. And people held that against him. So it would have been impolitic for him to take another Muslim. So he's probably talking about Shiwaju Bola Tinubu.
Yes.
I don't think that it would have worked. And the party looked at it, would we win with Boko Haram going on there? Would we win
especially as
the votes of the Southerners?
Successfully labeled the APC as a Islamic party.
It would have been difficult for the government to win. So government was taking a pragmatic decision by not going for it. I don't think it was. He didn't come out as a champion of the issue. There were several people who said things against it. I spoke to my APC friends. I said, you want to take a risk? Okay, I bet you are going to lose, because we will campaign against you. The world has changed. Nigeria is a heterogeneous society. So if you want to take the risk, it's yours to take. I don't think it's an issue. And I never really heard him standing and saying, like the Rock of Gibraltar, I stand against your position on it.
Well, Senator Saraki also says that he has declared his assets 4 times since 2003, and no issues were ever raised by the Code of Conduct Bureau on the declarations therein. So isn't that valid? If you didn't raise anything since 2003, why are we raising it now? We can't divorce politics from this.
It means it's politics, but whether it's politics or not, what do the facts say? That is the issue.
Yes.
You see, all these are extraneous matters. When you come to talk about the law, these are extraneous matters. There is no time bar on criminal cases.
Yes.
Anytime you can be tried on criminal cases. It's not a valid point. Even in 20 years' time, they can still bring up a case,
yes,
if it's a criminal offense.
So what you are saying in effect is that if there was nothing to try him for, all these politics wouldn't matter at the end of the day.
It would not matter. If you are clean, if you didn't commit any offense, you say, okay, I'm ready. He said the other day he was happy that his case is coming to trial now.
Yes.
After going up and down. So I thought he was ready to submit himself for trial and say, okay, I'm ready with my facts. My lawyers are here. I want my good name to be cleared.
Yes.
That is the point. That's the point that people expect him to say. Go through with the trial and clear your good name, and the public will applaud you. I have nothing against him, but I am worried about the level of corruption in Nigeria. And if the government does not do something about it, we'll be drowned. That this level of corruption, I don't think that you can find it anywhere in the world that goes unpunished.
Yes.
There is so much of audacity to it. The audacity is unbelievable. They don't even care. All they know is, okay, you take me to court, you ask me 500 million, 400 million sureties.
Yes, for bail.
I bring them, and then they release me. I go on my own business. I tell my keep asking for adjournment, keep raising issues. The judge does not have jurisdiction, the prosecutor does not have local standing, or whatever. Raise all the issues, go to the Supreme Court, will come back and so on. The case will go on for 20 years and nobody will be convicted. Those people who left in 2007, only Buhari has been properly tried and jailed. If he had been in Nigeria, if he hadn't fought Jonathan
and left for Dubai
and decided to leave for Dubai, he would still be here talking tough and parading his wealth all over the place. The others know they are here. Some of them have crossed carpet from PDP to APC, so they see it as a sanctuary. If you go to APC and begin to make donations to the party and praise Buhari and the government and praise Asiwaju and attend his birthday and so on, nothing will happen to you.
Yes.
Maybe they are correct, because that's the country we have. But are we all citizens going to just keep quiet and allow them to run the country in their own image? We're the ones suffering. Petrol we can't get. You queue for hours, you can't get. Is that the country we wanted to have when we got independence? Is that the government we voted for when we voted some months ago? Those are the questions we as citizens who occupy the office of citizen of Nigeria should ask.
Join us again after the break. Welcome back. My concluding moments now with EKPU, former editor-in-chief of Newswatch. Senator Saraki says that he has every reason to expect not to be persecuted by the party that I contributed so much to build. Add to that the comments of Timmy Frank, who is the Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the APC, and he says the current trial is undeserved and amounts to paying a good man with evil. He also says that these allegations should be forgiven outside the judicial system because the Senate President courageously lent his political weight to APC's win in the last election.
He forgets that his own party, his own presidential candidate, who is now the president, had promised to sanitize Nigeria in terms of corruption. Does it mean he did not subscribe to that position?
Yes.
Did he say to Nigerians, well, some of our party people, they've made money corruptly, they're going to put the money in the campaigns, and when it is over, forget about trying them if you think they're guilty of something?
Yes.
So illogical. I'm surprised that anybody would come to the open forum with such remarks. What are we supposed to make of it? So they could get money from corrupt people, from the mafia, and say, okay, everything is okay. You are no longer mafia, you are no longer corrupt because you contributed money to the party.
You also fired on all cylinders against the Senate. In your article, which I read in the Guardian newspaper, you talked about the Senate passing a vote of confidence twice on the Senate President. And I thought, what's wrong with passing a vote of confidence? After all, the Senate President is innocent until proven guilty.
I have no problem with that. If they like, they can pass it 10 times. But the public is wiser than that. I hope they don't go further and ridicule themselves by passing it a third time, because the chickens are coming home to roost. The allegations are out there in the public space. So what will they be passing a vote of confidence for? That yes, we've seen the allegations in court, but we don't care. We support you, right or wrong,
Yes.
my master. They can't say that. The Senate is a respectable institution, and this Senate is made of very eminent people. You want to rub mud on yourself, on the Senate as an institution, on yourselves individually, they have to worry about that. They can play whatever politics they want to play there. But the rest of us, who have no commitment to any party, commitment to any individuals, we look at these things. Is it good for Nigeria?
And the Senate's attempt to amend the Code of Conduct Bureau and Tribunal Act. I remember one of the senators saying that it had nothing to do with this current Senate president's travails. They've just seen that they needed that act to be amended to make it work better.
The timing was inappropriate, even if what he's saying is correct, because
Yes.
people are going to say, well, their boss is on trial and now they want to amend the act so as to favor him. Public pressure on them made them pull back. That is also an admission that the move was not right, that they were not convinced that they were doing the right thing.
Yes.
Otherwise, they would not have had to withdraw the proposed amendment. No, it was a very shameful thing. I was surprised that they could bring it up at this time.
And they seemed really determined to amend the act at the time.
But you see, they also don't realize that the public is becoming more conscious, more worried about its own rights, more worried about the people that it elected
Yes.
to get in there. And they think they can do anything they like. The PIB has been in the Senate for 3-4 years, and it's such an important bill, but they haven't done much on it. They're quibbling over it. They're arguing back and forth, amending it. You have different versions of it.
Of
Yes.
the PIB.
Yes, everybody carries his own version. Now get to work to save the oil industry. They are not doing it. You brought this one and rush it through, first reading, second reading, within a few days. Who is a fool?
The invitation of the chairman of the tribunal, what did you make of that? Inviting the chairman to the Senate?
It's the same manner.
Yes.
In any case, who says that the Senate can invite a member of the judiciary? They are the ones who've been saying separation of powers, independence of each of the arms of government, even though in actual fact there is no absolute separation of powers. There must be cooperation among the three arms of government.
Yes.
You invite the judiciary to come and appear before you, and yet you claim that there is clear separation of powers and independence of each of the arms. You see, public pressure works, and I hope that this public will continue to stay active.
What is your opinion on this budget padding?
Budget padding. It's not new now, as
Everyone
you know.
says it's not new.
It's not new. It happened during Obasanjo. The civil servants and the ministers pay money to senators of their committee and say, increase it by so percent and we'll give you this.
Yes.
But the senators are smarter now. They say, bring the money well in advance.
Yes.
We don't want to wait until
The budget is passed.
Until the budget is passed. These have happened before, and it does keep happening. The civil servants are smart in these matters. They are the ones who teach their bosses how to the way to corruption, and it's a shame. But that doesn't mean it will stop. This is a different society. It's not going to stop. They do it all the time. Do they do it alone? They do it because the senators are also interested. The members of the House are also interested. It's a symbiotic relationship, a corrupt symbiotic relationship.
You say, will it stop? It won't stop. Does that mean that President Buhari is taking on too much at this time?
He is. He is, because there is too much to take on. I'm not saying he should slow down. No. The level of corruption is too high. He cannot slow down. I want him to set the example. Whether he will run in 2019 or not We want to have an example set in these 4 years, and then we'll be able to tell whoever comes in 2019 that we must not pull back. We must go forward. We must continue to prosecute corruption until we drive it down to the barest minimum. He's setting a good example, and I think we must encourage him to continue that way. Whether you say he's trying members of the opposition or not, I don't care.
Mr. EKPU, you think that anybody who comes in 2019, if it is not President Buhari, will be able to continue this kind of war with the way we see corruption fighting back?
Yes. Corruption will always fight back. It always fights back. But the example Buhari is setting, we must encourage the major parties to say, okay, we forgive you whatever you did in the past. But corruption, any party that comes must fight it. If Buhari is not running in 2019, APC must find a man of steel as its candidate who is ready to fight corruption. Buhari is able to fight corruption because it's not corrupt. If you remove Buhari, remove Shibanjo, the APC is equivalent of PDP. There's no difference. Buhari makes that difference.
Do you think the APC will have a chance in 2019 if it's not Buhari and Osinbajo again?
I don't know, 2019 is still a little far away. There is a lot of hustling going on already about 2019.
You don't think Saraki's case is also about 2019?
Well, people have said that to me, that he's ambitious, he wants to be the president in 2019. Yes, that might well be true, but you see, he's in a very difficult situation.
How?
He's a Yoruba man who lives in the north. The way these things are arranged, would they have nominated a Yoruba man? People would say, but a Yoruba man had run from 1999 to 2007.
Yes.
These things are based...
Does Senator Saraki consider himself a Yoruba man or a northern?
He has a Yoruba name. He speaks Yoruba. His father was a Yoruba man. That was one of the things that haunted his father, Oloshola. It's a difficult situation because it's a difficult country. Why shouldn't anybody be free to run? You say because of geography or his religion or the language that he speaks. It's totally unacceptable. Can we make that transition to a society where anybody can become president of Nigeria? Man, woman, wherever he comes from, whichever language he speaks, whichever God he worships.
Yes.
Look at America. How could a black man whose origin is Kenya become president of the most powerful nation in the world?
Yes.
Whoever thought Obama would get there? Well, maybe we're still far behind, but I hope that we will make that transition. We will begin to think differently. Who can deliver? The reason this system is not running well is because we don't respect institutions. What is the State House of Assembly doing? It's non-existent. The governors run most of the state houses of assembly, because the governors bring out the money.
Yes.
The governors say, okay, this is our budget. Pass it in 5 minutes. They share the money and pass it in 5 minutes. What sort of system is that? That is what happens. You don't have the robust debates that you ought to have, which should make things work well. How come the state houses of assembly exist and the governors were owing 10 months, 8 months salary to their staff? The people who elected them didn't say anything. And the people who were elected didn't say anything, didn't do anything. Now is payback time. I think the workers should harass them to sit down and think of how to raise revenue and not keep going to the federal government asking for a bailout. The federal government has bailed them out, but the rest of the work has to be done by them. There are many sources of raising revenue globally. Even if you surf the internet, you will find how governments around the world raise money.
Yes.
You can be creative about it, but they're not sitting down to think because they're used to going with a begging bowl to Abuja and collecting it. Now the tide has changed and they need to sit down and do some thinking. What can we do with what we have in the States? Sit down and hold a conference with thinkers. Let them come up with ideas of how you can survive. Nobody gave anybody an assurance that the price of oil would drop the way it's dropping. And it may drop further. So don't go to spiritual church to pray that you should go up. I'm rather praying that you should go down further, so that we begin to think. When we have too much money, we cannot think. If we can think, innumerable sources of wealth. This country is wealthy. So I ask the state governors to sit down and think. They can come up with a lot of ideas that will help to take them out of the financial morass in which they are now.
Thank you very much, Mr. EKPU, for coming back on 60 Minutes with me.
You're welcome.
And thank you for watching. I'm Angela Ajitumobi.